I knew the bait was rocking. Wherever I put the bait, they just seemed to, they come in and they wanted it, and my confidence was sky high. June come around and eventually that easterly wind did turn, the southwesterlies come, it got hot, the fish moved into the weed, they were looking spawny. This one particular day, there were some guys floater fishing, and I remember they started floater fishing over where one of my rods were, and I remember being a bit pissed off about it, and I thought, well, if you can't beat them, join them. So I got my floater rod out of the rod bag, walked round to a place called Springgates Point, and as the floats were drifting out of the bay, there was just the odd fish picking them off. And amongst these fish, there was this little pointed nose, and I thought, that's a grass carp. And I've not really caught many grass carp, so I fancied trying to catch him. So in the end, there was just him and this mirror about 30 pound, and they were swimming around in circles, and every time they come round, they would pick 2 or 3 mixers off. And eventually, this grassy, he was just lined up, dead right. And as he came up, he took me mixer, and bang, and all the surface exploded. And I'm thinking, this is going to be a 20 or a 30 pound grass carp. And I'm pulling it towards me. They don't really fight them grasses. And as this thing come past me under the water, honestly, it was like a submarine. It was 4 foot long, absolutely massive. And I played it quite hard because there was a lot of that streamer weed. And I managed to bundle it into the net. And honestly, my jaw dropped open when I see this thing. I went and fetched a set of scales, and I think it was 51 pound 10 ounces. So biggest grass carp in the country, funny enough. I moved that night, the fish cleared off, and I fished down one end of the lake. I woke up the next morning about 4 AM, and right down the other end of the lake, probably 700 yards away, I saw a big old mirror go like that, and I knew that it was on a spot that I'd put bait in the day before. Yeah, so I chucked all the gear back on the barra. It's 4 AM in the morning, and I moved round to this other spot, and I knew this spot was only about 10 feet off the bank at most. And I just swung a lead in, and it went down and went donk, and and you think, that's a bite. And I put the rod down, and there was the odd pinbrick bubble coming up. I knew there was a few fish about, and I thought, I won't put 2 rods out, I'll just fish 1. And I went up, and I started to get the kettle out of the bag to make a cup of tea, and this rod's just wrapped round. And mega scrap again, weeded me for about 5 minutes. Eventually, I managed to bundle this mirror into the net, and knew it was another good one. Got her on the scales, 41 pound 8 ounces, just like 640, 7 if you include the grassy. It was just an unbelievable. I couldn't believe what was happening to me, to be honest. It was around that time that I had about a month off of Halton with family holidays, school holidays. I fished locally and caught a really lovely crusty old common out of a lake of 33. But by the time I got back to Halton, it was now late autumn. Yeah, so the first night back, I managed a 38 out the edge, which was actually scully again. It was a recapture. And a little one, about 15 pound, which is a fully scale, called Becco, the smallest carp in the lake. But I was happy to get back and, get straight among the fish. Next session down, again, I managed a 33 pound mirror, so I was chuffed. It was like I just hit the ground running. I knew that time when them fish on the edge was coming to an end, there was getting less and less fish in the edge. So what I decided to do, I decided I'd bait a swim in the middle, and no one had fished the deep water in months. So I got into this deep area and I put about 3 kilo of bait out, and I left it, and then I went back and had a look around the edge. And as I got round to the back of the church bay, I'd thrown about 20 or 30 baits in there that morning. And I looked down, there feeding on my bait was the wood carving. And I badly wanted this fish. It was a 50-year-old mirror, ex-Longfield resident. I just wanted it, beautiful linear. And there she was, eating my bait. So I put a rig down there, and to cut a long story short, over the next hour, she picked up my rig 3 times and spat it out. And it wasn't the rig, it was the way I'd baited. I'd baited too close, so she wasn't having to move between them food items. So what I did, when she left the swim, I spread probably 10 halves of boilies, and I just put them all around the swim. And then I put the hook bait on an area that exactly where I knew she kept going to. Anyway, 10 minutes went by and I'm sat there, and she's come back in, and now she's moving between food items. So I'm confident now she's going to make the mistake with my mega sharp hook. I couldn't even watch, honestly. I was like a cat on a hot tin roof, and I went and sat on my bed chair and I made my mate a cup of tea. and I was just going to put the kettle on, and my rod bleeped once, and I looked at him and I said, wood carving. And I jumped up, and the rod's gone into meltdown. As I've run down, this fish has gone through the weed bed, and I've picked it up, and the braids come up, and the weed's all hanging off this line like a washing line. And as this fish rolled in this thick weed, I see a big line of linear scales, and I knew I had the wood carving on. I just kept her moving. The weed was over her head, so she was calm. My mate jumped down in the water and he just scooped her up. And we was like a pair of kids jumping round like. It was absolutely brilliant. And yeah, we pulled her up on the bank, weighed her 37 pounds, 8 ounces, which was a really good weight for that fish. And she was honestly just a stunning carp. I was so pleased. And yeah, done the photos. If I hadn't caught another carp that session, it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, so eventually I let her go and I watched her swim away. I was so pleased. And there'd been another fish feeding with her the whole time, a 30-pound mirror. And with all the disturbance of catching the wood carving, I really thought it had done me off. And I put the rod back in the area anyway, and a lad called Matt come along and he gave me a beer. Just as I'm about to celebrate with this beer, the rod's gone into meltdown, and I've ran down into the swim and I'm playing this fish, and it's the 30 that had been feeding with the wood carving. Eventually I managed to bundle it into the net, and I remember Matt saying, I can't believe you caught that over so much bait in the edge, because I'd probably put about 500 baits back on the spot. Yeah, and for the record, I think that fish weighed 32 pound, 8 ounces. Beautiful, really beautiful mirror, long, dark, scaly thing, gorgeous. So I was well chuffed, and that was about the last fish I saw in the edge. And I knew now that the fish had gone out into that deeper water. Yeah, it was around that time that Greg told me he was in the running for Carp Angler of the Year, and apparently I was in the equation too, which was really nice to know, because you know, I'm a family bloke, working bloke, and normally you expect the guys that are winning these competitions to, you know, be full-time anglers. So anyway, I didn't fish any harder. I just thought, what will be will be. If I get in that top 3, I get in it. I managed to catch another 4 fish through the autumn out of Halton, the biggest being a 34.15, a fish called Silky, really pretty fish. And I'd caught about 20 carp. It was 20 carp in 27 nights at Halton, which I was expecting 8 to 10 fish, if I'm honest, you know, if I worked really hard at it. And there's a lot of full-timers on there, a lot of lads doing, you know, 3 or 4 day sessions. And I was doing 1 night a week. My normal session is anywhere between about 36 hours. I get there at 4 in the morning and I fish till about 1 o'clock the next day. Yeah, so I was surprised to even be in the running, and that winter I don't think Halton done any fish, not a fish. And the end of the winter, I mean, it was the last day of the winter, and I'd fished a couple of weeks before, and I'd been getting a little bit of bait going on a spot, and I was sat there. It was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, and Bev Clifford rang me from Carp Talk, and she said, oh Dave, I'm pleased to tell you that you've won Carp Angler of the Year. I was a bit shocked, to be honest. It was great, and yeah, I sat there that night, and I remember I sat there and I drank a red wine, and I was sort of taken in the atmosphere. Anyway, next morning at 6 o'clock, the maddest thing happened. I got a take, slow dogged fight, and slipped the net under my biggest fish of that season, 50 pound, 2 ounces, a fish called Roger Dodger, lovely big dark mirror. Yeah, it was just the icing on the cake. It was like the best years probably angling I've had in 10 years at least, maybe in my life. And to be crowned Carp Angler of the Year at the end of it, it was just a massive privilege. Yeah, so why did I do so well? I put it down to a few factors. Firstly, in my opinion, I used the best bait that I've ever used in my life. I know a lot of people can sit there and say, oh, you would say that, you're a Mainline consultant, but believe me, I've been offered money to go and use other bait and turned it down, because you cannot buy confidence, and I've got a massive amount of confidence in my bait. That confidence in the bait really helped me on the Church Lake, and to be fair, on any lake I go to, it's one thing I'll never question. So rig-wise, when I was on the Church Lake, as I got to know the lake better, I was moving into areas, and I knew before casting out, or if I see a fish show, because I'd done my homework, I needed a chod in that area. That area I can fish a bottom bait in, and I presented the rig that needed to be in that area. I'll give you an example. You don't want to be fishing a chod rig over gravel. You want to be fishing like a wafter or something like that on a nice hook link. So I suited the situation every time. And I'll do that with my bait as well. If I was fishing an area and the fish was showing over it and it was thick weed, I wouldn't think, I can't fish that, it's thick weed. I'd get my bait, I'd crush it up, then I'd spom it out and all the little particles would sit within the weed and I could fish a chod in there and the fish would be feeding within the weed. So you've just got to suit the situation all the time. Then you've got hook baits. I use wafters quite a lot. If I can fish a bottom bait over a pop-up, I'll do it all day long. So the wafters are a real favourite of mine. Pop-ups, the high vises in the spring when the fish are coming out of that period of being, you know, a little bit dumb if you like, naive. They've not been fished for 3 or 4 months. They ain't even seen a hook bait. They're hungry. They're coming out of this like sleepy sort of mode. Bright hook baits in their face and it works. But I find as the year goes on, you know, their wafters and the stuff that's is less obvious tends to be the better way to catch the fish. So the secret to success is continuity. Keep the bait going in, keep going to the lake, do your homework, and most of all, work hard. The harder you work, the more you'll get out of it. So a Mainline Carp Angler of the Year competition, anyone can win it. All you've got to do is send your catch reports to Carp Talk. Fish caught on Mainline will gain you points. And also I think a lot of it's done on recognition as well. If you're catching fish from really hard waters, they recognise that. I think that's an important part of the competition, that Mainland themselves realise that a working guy puts effort in. It ain't just about being a full-timer, you know what I mean? Anyone can win it. I've won it, you can win it.